It'll probably ask your permission.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, Justin, nice to meet you. We're essentially meeting for the first time via Zoom and across the country, which is kind of cool. But we would love to hear your story. We know you have a part of your story in Grayson County, maybe all of it. I don't know your story. So I'd love for you just to tell us who you are, where you are today, and kind of all of the in between that you want to share with our community.
Yeah, and I hope we got time. Uh, my name's Justin Jones. I'm currently 33 years old. I am married, been married for 5 years now. Um, we have a 7-year-old daughter. She was turning 2 when I met my wife, so I got a 2-for-1 deal. And we are currently expecting, even though we haven't announced that yet. So,
We get
um,
first release here. Well, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Congratulations.
I think we can wait to release the video for at
We can,
least another week. I
sure.
think we're planning on a week from now.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I'm super excited to be like a biological father for the first time. But since, we're talking about foster care, I mean, in a way, like I took a kid, and that's I know I never correlated that until right now though, so that's kind of cool. Live action reaction there. Um, but yeah, I've been in the Navy for 13 years now. I was in aviation for my first 9 years, and a couple of years ago, I switched over to the medical side of the Navy. So I'm a corpsman, and I'm going through like a year-long school right now in San Diego. That's going to make me a provider. Um, when I finish it, I will. I did a lot of, actual college beforehand, but I'll have my science, bachelor's of health sciences when I'm done, and I'll be able to apply for the PA program, which is my end goal. So
That's awesome.
I have a decent path I've set before myself. Um, and then my backup plan is, if I don't get accepted into the military's PA program, I can still move back to Texas and utilize the state of Texas is just great for veterans and great for foster kids in general as far as college goes. So I have a good GPA and the ability to use the assets that I have. So that's the backup plan. Um, man, foster care started for me when I was 9 years old in Sherman, Texas. I'm not sure if you know where these apartments are. There used to be a Flamingo Bingo um, on like the main road where the mall is. I haven't been to Sherman in years. I'll just say that. So, but they were very low income housing. Actually, they had a name. It was 1906 East Princess Drive. I still to this day remember
Wow.
the address. Um, right behind the Flamingo Bingo, right right by the train tracks. Like I got used to sleeping with a train in my head. The projects. They were literally called the projects.
Okay.
Uh, I'm not sure if they're there anymore or not, but I mean you can look it up.
Yeah.
Uh, so my mother was alcoholic addict, like many parents. Um, she pills were her main drug of choice. I mean, I remember her drinking some, but it was always pills, usually downers. She would sleep a lot. And just want to go ahead and say that my mom is doing really good right now for like, and consistently doing good. She lives in New Orleans, and I do love her very much. Our relationship has gotten better over the years.
Awesome.
But that took a very long time, a very, very long time. So yeah, I was 9 years old when we were living there. We had been, I was originally, I'm born in Louisiana, and then pretty much raised in Texas. So how I got to Texas was my mother went to a rehab, and I went to live with my grandparents in Plano, up in Dallas. Then my mother, once she finished that program, moved to Texas, and that's kind of where I really remember stuff kicking off.
Mhm.
Um, we lived in Richardson. We lived in Plano. We lived all over the place. Ended up moving to Sherman after my mom found a guy, married him, and it didn't work out. Like he he was not a good person. Um, so we kind of left in the middle of the night type of thing.
Okay.
A lot of stuff happened. Um, and I'm an open book. Hell with it. He beat me, and uh, I mean, I don't know if what I consider beating, but it wasn't good punishment. I'll say that.
Yeah, it was
And we were
abuse.
living in and out of hotels, and we didn't have money. He had kids. They were sexually abused.
Yeah.
He was not a good man. Um, but he managed to get my mother pregnant without knowing it. So we left, and my sister was born some months later. Um, my mother continued using, and me as a 9-year-old pretty much raised my kid sister. Um, yeah. So we went to foster care that first time um, there. Um, I went and lived with, well, I mean, I remember the night very well. It was a very emotional night. We got sent to a foster home, but I was too rowdy for them, so they moved me to another one pretty within like a month. I
Okay.
guess I was just like a little kid, and I was tearing up their toys and stuff. I was just rambling. I didn't have anything growing up, and they were,
Yeah.
I don't know. But my sister and I, we got moved, separated into different homes. Um, I went to live with Debbie Hopewell actually, and she had like 13 kids, and that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves about foster homes is that they allow them to have that many kids. And I think that is probably the biggest mistake, um, because you cannot spread the correct attention and love that you need as a child going through all that,
Sure.
because they need individual attention,
Yeah.
and it's super important, super important. I mean, more than, I don't know, like I would have a hard time allowing more than four, to be honest, and that's including the core family, the biological kids. I just don't think that it's a good idea, and yeah, I don't want to go too far into the weeds, but that's probably a huge downside, in my opinion. And I was in a couple of homes that had that many kids,
Yeah.
and I'll get into that later. Uh, so I was with the Hope Wells Co. Was that? And
Oh, we lost you there for a second.
oh, sorry.
Oh,
I
what?
wonder if we good?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me prioritize my computer real quick on my
Yeah.
Wi-Fi network.
I'm gonna make sure we're good too.
You can edit videos, right?
Sure. If not, this is just real. Everyone has Zoom functionality issues. I do
Just
have a bit of a timeline with this Zoom. We may have to do a two-part, but that's totally okay.
okay.
Okay, I think we're smooth sailing now.
Should be golden. Prioritizing device. Good to go. All right. So that was like I lived with the Hopewells for a couple of years, and then my mother was able to get us back.
Okay.
Um, by the way, shout out to Robin Bethel, my caseworker. She's like another mom to me. She I still talk to her to this day, and yeah, she really worked her way up since I was like one of her first kids.
Wow.
So um, I don't know if you know her, but
Yeah, Robin, that's actually how we became connected is I serve with Robin on our board. And she
no
does a
kidding.
really, really great job. She does not have an easy job and she does a great job at it.
Yeah, go into her office and look at her board of kids, try to find me on there. That was one of her first kids. That was like maybe like her sixth one.
So I
Uh,
feel like caseworkers and CPS get a bad rap sometimes, especially when it comes to, I know you were talking about a lot of kids in a home and, for example, they have a lot of kids on your caseload and you mentioned her kind of being a second mom to you and, whatever you're comfortable sharing, but how did she influence that time of you being, in care and even, essentially getting you reunited back with your biological family because that is the point of foster care, and that is our goal in the end is that art we see those kiddos back in their homes where they need to be.
yeah, well, I mean, obviously the goal is to monitor the parent and they have to meet certain requirements.
Right.
Um, and you got to do your best to judge that as a caseworker, which is super hard
Yeah.
because you're looking at the life of this individual that should have their children. However, you repeat offenders, their past, that's really hard to get over and to make a judgment call like that. Ultimately, kids do need to be, I say need, but should is probably the word, be with their parents. But the interest of the child, and it's a different perspective now that I'm 33 years old compared to when I was young too. And I feel like I'm an anomaly in the system. There's not a lot of kids out there that unfortunately, and I'm not boasting or anything, but they're blessed with a lot of intellect and survivability skills because of the abuse that they went through. There's so many kids that have gone through way worse than me, and I think about that every day because honestly, I don't think I went through that much. It's other kids that I really want to help, to be honest.
And
Um,
sharing your story will spark some people's interest in how they can help get involved in these kids' lives. And it is okay to say like you are a success coming out of foster care. I mean, there's so many statistics of high school graduates, college graduates to see, having a family and a career that is a big deal. It's okay to say that for sure. Because it really I think people need to hear that. And I think kids in care now even need to hear that. Um,
Absolutely. They need to, I think a big thing is that they need to, really focus on their strengths too. If you know you're good at something, like pursue it.
yeah.
Don't don't use your past as an excuse. That's one of the biggest mistakes like I made when I was young is that I always justified where I was because of my past, or I used it as an excuse. And when I stopped doing that, I became much more successful. Honestly, I don't ever think about like me being in foster care in my past, or hell, I'll say this, like I was, mm, actually, no, I'll hold on to that. Um, Sorry, now I've got everybody curious.
Okay.
Might get around to it later.
Nope, it's
It's
your
just,
story, whatever you want to share.
uh, so moving forward, like, yeah, Robin,
Yeah.
you asked me about her and how she was another mom. Um, I'll just say like any normal mother, super huge heart. And I still think, I don't think she's aged a day, by the way, since I've met her.
Completely agree. I haven't known her that long, but I think she looks amazing.
It's nuts. Uh, she's very nurturing as a person. She's very intelligent. She's always listening and waiting to respond and not speak. You know what I mean? And that's so important, especially when you're talking to these kids that are trying to like, it may be subtle what they're trying to say, but they they're trying to say something and they don't really, if they're not like me, I'm a super bold and in your face type of person. I'll tell you exactly what I'm feeling or thinking. And That's how I am. But there's kids out there that have been mentally abused so much, and it may not be physical, it may be mental, and I think mental is worse than physical sometimes. But to the point to where they're not confident to talk about the things, and I mean, a lot of this can be opinionated, but a lot of this, my opinions come from experience.
Yeah.
So that's something you got to listen to these kids. They're trying to tell you, even if they're like their behavior is like on a downtrack and they're continuously acting out and acting, they're trying to tell you something, and they may not be acting out on purpose, but they are trying to tell you something. It is psychological and deep.
Yeah.
Medications aren't always the answer. I promise that. That was a big thing when I was in foster care. They wanted to medicate all of us. And now, granted, I'm ADHD and I still take Adderall to this day. So that definitely helps.
They can definitely, sure, they can definitely serve their purpose, but listening, I hear you saying, is so huge, and that seems like a big part of what Robin did for you is she heard you, um,
Absolutely.
you're in the midst of your struggles and really in the midst of your situation.
She I don't feel like I could have gotten a better one at
Wow,
all. I feel very lucky to have had Robin Bethel. She's cool. I love her to death. Um,
awesome.
yeah, so I guess I'll start going back into the story. Eventually, we did end up back with my mother, and that lasted, I think, a year or two. I don't remember. I went back in when I was 13. So,
Okay, so from 9 to 13, you were in foster care essentially?
um, no, no, no. At 13, I went back into foster care. So I
Okay,
think
so you
maybe
like
from 9 to 11, I was in foster care, and then with her for a year and a half, 2 years, and then I was the one who made the call. Actually, at 13, I wanted a better life for my sister.
wow,
So I called my grandparents, who lived in Plano, 45-minute drive from Plano, and they came in. My mom was too doped up to realize what was going on. We went back to Plano that night, and Robin let us live with my grandparents for a little while. They were initially talking about trying to adopt, and just wasn't going to work out with, a 13-year-old and a me and my sister are 9 years apart.
okay,
So it it was a lot for them. So it didn't happen. We ended up getting moved around a lot. Where did we go? We went to from there. I think we went to Eustis, Texas, to a not so good home. Um, the they were an older couple, but they were very, very old fashioned. And that's about the time that Robin started to realize that I needed to be separated from my sister as far as living together, because I couldn't stop parenting her,
yeah,
which is just a natural thing for me.
yeah,
Still to this day, it's
would
not
be
going to go
for
away.
it would be for anyone in your situation, that was you had to take on that role. It's hard to
Me
turn
and my
something like
sister are
that
still very close. I officiated her wedding.
Wow,
Yeah, it was really cool.
that's really cool.
Um, we're super, super close. She she's one of my favorite things about the world. I love my kid sister.
That's so awesome. So you
Um,
guys were separated kind of by
yeah, so after Eustis, we didn't live there long. It was like 6 months. I remember playing football there, and that's about it. I think after the football season, we ended up moving.
wow.
I ended up going to the boys' home in Tyler. Um, I don't remember the name of it, but it was a Get Better program or some whatever. I'm sure it benefited me. I don't really know. Um, but after that, I ended up going for high school. So that was, I guess, that 2 year, seventh and eighth grade. Gladewater, Texas, which is kind of close to Tyler. It's like in between Tyler and Longview. And I finished high school there. I went to uh, Rex and Paula Rice, great foster parents. I'm still in contact with them. introduced my family. We when we were moving from where I was last stationed in Mississippi to San Diego, where I'm currently at. We stopped by and like
That's
got to meet them all and hung out for a couple days. It's really neat. Like I love them very, very much. They were great influences,
so
and they did their best. Um, absolutely.
if
There's
I can ask you, thinking about, I know you mentioned old fashioned, and I know you mentioned a home earlier with a lot of kids. What really separated this home from those? I know like you're a parent, I'm a parent. Like we are just doing the best we can, and we're not great at it. But what made them, thinking about foster parents different for you?
uh, so it's interesting to say because like at some points the home in Gladewater with Rex and Paula. It was a large home. It was an old hospital, a one-story like clinic with at one point it had like 24 rooms, but they did a lot of remodeling, got it down to 13. I think at one point we had like 10 kids or more, maybe. I really can't speak on it too much. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like I would have to sit here and it would take time. But I think the lessons that Rex in particular, he's a very intelligent guy. He's very patient as well. And boy, did we test his patience, man.
10 kids will test anybody's patience.
And not just that, but they were all teenage boys for the most part.
Wow.
We didn't have any teenage girls in the house. That would have been real bad.
Yeah.
But like me and my foster brothers, like they influenced me really badly. When I got there, I was just like, I want to go to church, blah blah blah, and then and Rex and Paula are very much churchy, and I still to this day like I don't want to get too far into that because that's not why we're here, but like I am Christian. It was just that the culmination of being influenced by my foster brothers who I thought were cool
Right.
and
As a teenager.
becoming a teenager. Yeah. It was just very trying times for any parent, really. Uh, there was a lady that lived with us. Her name I'll spare. But you know, she just wasn't the best at like helping to parent. She didn't really know how to parent. She was a work associate of Rex and ended up living with us well before I got there. So she was a constant stressor on us because I feel like she was always looking for us to do something bad, like seeking us out, checking on us all the time. Didn't matter what it was. So it's like we couldn't do anything right.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's stressful. Never having any buildup or pats on the back or anything like that. So but I will say the good part of that is that it taught me an incredible amount of patience.
Yeah.
I was a very angry kid. I had bad anger problems, um, which I don't anymore, which is good. But
That's awesome, yeah. It sounds
uh,
like though the difference in maybe her and you're not talking about Paula, it's and a lady
no,
like she lived
yeah,
there to kinda help, maybe facilitate the home, and obviously you probably need a more adults, having that many kids, but it seemed like she didn't have any relationship with you guys, where maybe like you're saying Rex had some
she was like the constable,
kind of
really.
equity of relationship with you as much as you can with that many kids. Instead, she was just kind of looking for you to do something wrong instead of trying to see your
Absolutely.
person, or maybe
And
if
I will say that, she's made amends since then. Like when we went back, she took me off to the side and, confessed her wrongs. And I was just like,
that's awesome.
yeah, and it really came full circle and we were able to talk it out. And, I very much appreciated it. And I told her, even though at the time it probably wasn't the right thing for any of us, it did teach me a lot, you
Yeah,
know, of patience,
yeah.
which is
It's
helpful.
interesting how that works, but yeah, and again, she's a human. I mean, none of us are
Everything's
perfect.
in
There's no telling
perspective,
what was going on in her world in that time. Um, but it definitely sounds like Rex and Paula were good influences and made a difference in your
Absolutely.
life for sure.
Oh yeah. Wow, it was really cool when I was up there in Texas a couple months ago before I got here. We went out to their property and we went out there to shoot some guns and stuff like that, like any other normal Texas family would, I guess.
Yeah.
And brought my kid out there, and this little 7-year old, like, I'm out here helping my kid do this for the first time. I haven't been able
Cool.
to do that. It was
Yeah.
really fun, you know. And then to have my dad right there, just like
Yeah.
kind of, I used to shoot guns with him when I was a kid, so
That's really
it was a
cool.
kind of a special moment for me.
So, do you feel like your time in that home, because something, I meet with foster parents a lot, and talking about different things like community involvement, something that's really important for these kids is normalcy. Like their lives aren't normal. So us trying to create, we use the word normalcy, just normal things in their lives. Do you feel like you had that with Rex and Paula? Just some kind of it seems like you got to be a boy, like they had property and you got to be outside and maybe do things you were interested in
Oh
versus
yeah, I played football. They
treated,
let me
put
play
in a box.
football.
That's
Football
awesome.
was huge to me because of my anger issues. Like that really helped me like alleviate a lot of that through lifting
Yeah.
weights and playing football. They had an interesting way of um, reward and punishment. They
Okay.
had some called out of compliance. Basically, if you get so many strikes during a day, you become out of compliance, and you have to do a chore to get back in compliance. You have
Okay.
a point system. If you get below a certain amount of points, you don't get your allowance for that day, which is collectively, added up until the end of the week.
Yeah.
But I mean, getting allowance is cool.
Yeah.
Um,
That seems like something. I mean, I have a lot of kids. I can't really afford to give everyone an allowance. I only have
no,
4,
I get
but
it.
I'm like, "Hey, that they were
It
given to
wasn't much.
allowed." Hey, but you know what? It gave you guys something to work towards, and also, I know, I mean, kind of a side tangent here, but something to hold on to. I know a lot
Hmm.
of foster kids, like, "This is my money. This is something for me, given to me, not taken away from me." It seems like
Right.
we had some perspectives that were definitely helpful,
Yeah.
depending on how for sure.
Yeah. I think at the max was like $20 a week, which, could be lowered down,
Yeah,
depending on your behavior that
yeah.
the woman that I told you about judged us on a lot. Uh, but I was saying, doing a lot of chores on a house we were remodeling. I helped build that house,
That's cool.
kind of.
Yeah,
Uh, I learned how to fix a hole in the wall, several holes in the walls. Yeah, I was that kid. And that's come in handy.
yeah,
Um, man, Rex is so good at teaching life lessons because he's such a calm demeanor and just a really like all around nice guy. And when you sit down and talk to you, he talks to you like a person, and he really wants to know how you're feeling, and he gives great advice. Um, I'm really thankful for him in
that's awesome.
particular.
It he cared about you as a person, not just a a time period of you spending in his home or anything
Yeah,
like that. He cared about you and your future. Clearly, you still have a relationship with him today.
yeah.
That's awesome. So tell me about, so that was, you were a teenager. So from that time frame, did you leave foster care again? Did you stay there for
No,
a long period of time? What did that next season of your
I
life
was
look
there for 4 years.
like? Okay.
So all through high school, when I graduated out of foster care, they drove me to Waco, where I chose to go to college at TSTC. I wanted to become a chef.
Okay.
Um, I will say I was kind of, because I was grounded so much as a teenager. I think I was kind of sheltered, or maybe it was just me wanting to go wild. I don't know. I was able to do a lot, and I got in a lot of trouble in high school. But once I got to college, nobody could tell me what to do anymore. So I
Mm,
made a lot of mistakes. I didn't really go to class, and I partied a lot, and had to join the Navy because I didn't have anywhere else to go. Um, Fast forward 13 years. I'm here, 3 deployments, been around the world 3 different times.
that's really awesome. Thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah,
That's
it's a job.
it is, but
Oh,
not everybody can do it. So that's pretty incredible. So what would you want to say, I think, I'm trying to think of the order of this because I think there's a lot to say to a lot of people. I think, you know, thinking about people that want to have an influence on foster kids, teenagers. I mean, I'm talking from 2 to 22 because, I know you age out of foster care, but essentially, I mean, like you said, if they get to college and they don't have a Rex to drive their family to back home, they're in the world alone. What would you say to people just wanting to have an impact on them? It may not be to be a foster parent. It may just be a teacher, a coach, a Robin as a caseworker, a youth leader in a church. I don't know, anyone in a community. I think what would you say, to them as the recipient of people influencing your life?
Um, I would I would say this not only to people who want to mentor foster children, but to any parent out there, because school doesn't teach this. They teach us to go out and work hard and get a job.
Mm,
Um, that societal norm is a bad way of thinking. They should teach money management in school. So it's up to the parent or said mentor, because they don't teach you how to balance your checkbook, whether it be a tangible checkbook or we're talking, debit card in your actual
yeah,
account. Um, setting a budget and sticking by that budget. That is probably one of the hardest lessons to learn through through living it, because it takes years. Still learning everything today. Like I mean, I've come around quite a bit and I'm doing well, but the thing, it took me a very long time to fix my old habits from when I was young because I wasn't taught
yeah,
anything. That is probably one of the biggest things I could ask for for parents and mentors alike to teach these children is proper money management and budgeting, because it's so important in life. And learning through life lessons uh after it's too late is such that's
yeah,
so detrimental to their life after, and it's too late at that point, you
yeah.
know.
Absolutely. Well, not only are they already do they have so many obstacles to overcome, but you're talking about, a teenager getting a job, mismanaging money, maybe building bad credit. I mean, that overflowing into adulthood, that those obstacles can take a really long time to repair. I think
Absolutely.
that's great advice and something that, I think about with my oldest daughter's 14. She's going to get her first job this year. I was just talking to my husband about money management, working through that with her, and but I hadn't really thought about that for, I know a lot of foster parents and they're just trying to do everything they can to parent the kids, to reconcile relationships and therapy and things like that. But if we can have community members step in and offer some resources that foster parents can lean in on for the kids in their home, that would be pretty powerful and help them have a real an understanding of the world, not just like you said of the societal norm. Um,
Yeah.
that's great advice. So what about to maybe a foster child that would see this or hear this, that maybe a teenage boy or girl or someone that's 9 years old and remembers, or that's 13 years old and had to make a tough phone call because they knew the situation they were in wasn't where they wanted to be, or their sibling what they wanted for their siblings. You're fine.
If I'm to speak
You're fine.
to anybody out there, any foster kid that's watching this, sorry.
No, you don't have to be sorry.
I've been there. Shit sucks. I didn't meet my dad till I was 27 years old. My real dad.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I was like, I was standing a watch, what we call a watch in the Navy is your duty in the middle of the night, and I got a wild hair, and it's, Facebook wasn't a thing, when I was in foster care.
Okay.
So I was able to do a little bit more research and look up some arrest records. It's weird, no, but and then find family through foster care. Um, so you know, I would say this, like kids out there that don't know some of your parents, don't ever give up on that because it happened for me at 27.
Wow.
Secondly, and we have a great relationship.
That's awesome.
He never knew about me. That was the thing.
Wow.
Uh, speak up if and don't lie on your foster parents. Like, just don't play that card. Don't don't be weak-minded. Be strong, because you are.
Hmm.
You've made it through this much. You can keep going, but always rely on your strengths. And if you have good foster parents, just because they're not doing what you want them to do, don't like lie on them. Or I've seen it happen. Like,
Yeah.
don't make them out to be the bad guy.
Don't mess up a good thing, if you will.
No,
Yeah.
but if there are things that are wrong, you need to speak up though, because there are some really bad foster parents out there too, and I've seen that too. You you got to be vocal about that. You can't be scared, because I promise you, holding on to that is not going to help you.
Yeah.
You may be scared of that foster parent, but the minute you say something, it's going to happen. They will take care of it. I promise you.
Yeah.
As long as you don't have like a record of crying wolf,
Yeah.
which speaks to my first portion of that.
Right.
Secondly, money management. Learn it, understand it, start it at like seventh, eighth grade, build something up, have a credit score before you get out of foster care if you don't get it adopted. Man.
I know there's a lot you could say. I know we're coming close to our time for our recording ending, but I I think there's so much to say, and
There's so
I know
much.
we'll continue this conversation, even thinking about for our foster kiddos specifically. But I think
Those
just
counseling sessions that you go through, talk it out, talk it out, talk it out, talk it out. It will help you relieve that stress off of your back. I promise you. And the more you talk about it and the more you're comfortable talking about it, the more stress you're going to be able to relieve. And also find ways to relieve stress, like football, baseball, or working out of some sort. Stay healthy. Like, I would tell this to almost anybody, but like these, keep your mental health is so much of focus, even in the military nowadays, because it's
yeah,
people are understanding it more, and it's not a downplay.
yeah,
It's a very serious thing. Um, Focus on your mental health, and make healthy choices, and that goes for every aspect in life,
yeah,
not just food. Like,
yeah,
make healthy choices in your friends, make healthy choices in who you hang out with, or activities that you're involved in. And I know I sound lame and old right now, but man, if I could go back and beat up my old self, I would honestly, like, 10th grade is where my schooling started to drop. I was in all AP classes and stuff like that,
wow,
and I just started not caring anymore. And I wish I could go back and just uh,
yeah.
smack my old self and tell me to get back on track.
Yeah. Well, I really believe that this is going to help someone, a lot of people actually. But specifically, I think that last statement, even about influence, I think in the world we live in today, you can be influenced by whoever you want to be, and I think that choosing the right people to be influenced by matters a lot. And so I think that that's really powerful. But I just really appreciate you, Justin, sharing your story, being honest, vulnerable. Obviously, it's a big part of who you are and what shaped you as a human. I know there were some people along the way that really impacted that as well. But I look forward to continued conversation too about how we can help our community, and just raise awareness, but also actually make a really big difference. So I
Absolutely.
really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much.